We may not have a death in the family, but something has been ripped away. We have a loss. Our loved one isn't there. And so we grieve. We're not people that you have to run away from. We're not people that you have to stay away from. We're just people. And we need love too. My name is Monique Pettaway, and I'm an educator in Mobile County Public School System. At the moment, I'm in the process of developing a nonprofit organization that basically focuses on those family members who are struggling. My desire is to help them with the education and the training and the coaching to help them get through whatever they're struggling with. My inspiration came from my own experience. When I was 26, I had just got married. I'm thinking that life is about to begin, you know, a fresh start. You just get married, you just get your first job, and so things are beginning to look good. But then all of a sudden, your life has been ripped apart. The life that I thought I had now completely come to an end. And it was something that I was not used to, where something had been torn away from me. So for me, it was really a heartfelt grieving process that I dealt with. I thought that because he was in prison, that I was the one who had done something wrong, when I wasn't the one who had done anything wrong. But when you think about what society says and how society views you, there's a stigma attached to that. I lost a lot of friends. I kept a few, but I lost more. So when you're sitting by yourself and you're trying to figure out answers, you're looking for answers. And so when you don't have them, then you become on a journey to yourself to search out those answers. And so I began to search for answers. And of course, I found that in God and having a closer relationship with Him. And that helped me throughout my entire journey. Because there's so many things that go on and so much violence that goes on in the prison. You're always worried, is my loved one safe? Is my loved one okay? Can I do something for my loved one? My mother, you know, as much as she loves me, she wanted so much to help me, but she didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to say, and neither did my father. But the one thing my parents never did was they never said anything negative, and they allowed me to make my own decisions and my own choices. I chose to support him because I knew that he was innocent. So I did that by myself. And then when it was time for me to be released from that situation, then I was released from it. Because he knew, you know, he couldn't ask me to continue to stay locked up with him. He said, I deserve a life too. When you have a loved one in prison, you do go to prison with them. My hope is to stop some of the challenges in some of the families. I ended up having to pay for a lot of things when we talk about court costs, because attorneys aren't cheap, you know, telephone calls aren't cheap, driving to visit isn't cheap, depending on where they are, and then they require money on their books just so they can purchase items while they're in prison. So it's a heavy burden on the family member themselves. And I would like to be able to lift some of those burdens, to be able to provide some education, some training, scholarships if possible, you know, for the children, you know, to educate the mother or the father. Well, Incarcerated but Free, I got that title actually sitting in church one day. And God said, you're incarcerated, but you're free. And I had to ask, what does that mean? What does that mean? He said, mentally. You're incarcerated, but you don't realize how free you are. And so the book's subtitle is How to Find Freedom from Your Mental Prison. And it goes through every emotional bout that an individual experiences, whether it's losing their mind, losing control, being confused, having doubts, going through depression, having anxiety. I mean, every emotion that an individual experiences, whether it be the loss of a loved one to the prison system or the loss of a loved one due to death, or whether you go through divorce, or whether you go, any circumstance, it's a loss and it's a grieving period. And those are the same emotions that everybody goes through. So when I wrote the book with that in mind, that most people are going to experience something traumatic. But I wanted to use my experience, my traumatic experience, because it was traumatic, and share how you can cope with each one of those emotions, using questions and using biblical scriptures to encourage and inspire an individual to work through all of those emotions. Freedom is a mindset. It's in the mind. Because to be physically incarcerated is one thing, but to be mentally incarcerated is something totally different. You can keep your mind in chains and not allow yourself to be everything that God has created you to be. But when you break the chains on your mind and realize that you're free to be who you are, free to be who God created you to be, free to use your gifts and your talents, and free to just be, then nobody in this world can stop you from living out your purpose.